Please do continue to sign into the front desk. Do appreciate it. Hello, my name is Marissa Peter. I am the chair for the St. John's Neighborhood Association. Thank you all for coming out to our monthly membership meeting tonight. We have a very packed agenda, as you may have seen posted online and also in the handouts. We have some really exciting presentations. I'm really excited to have our friends of Ross Ferry here to present to you the work that they've been doing over the last year and a half to help activate our river as another means of transportation. Woo! Go transport! Okay, so to keep us on time, as I call the meeting to order, I wanted to just give you a few announcements, some of which you already will have in your hand. December 14th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is a Chimney Park celebration for the Boulevard Bridge community. So if you're into bikes, go down there. We'll also have it posted on our website. Understanding and Addressing Islamophobia is January 15th. The Office of Community and Civic Life will be hosting that event. So if you're curious, interested, want to know more about Islam, by all means, please attend them. And I wanted to let everyone know that I did receive a request from one of the neighbors regarding our business district here on downtown Lombard. They had asked if I could please make a PSA, public service announcement, to ask the businesses if they would please tidy up their local front ways and keep it a little bit more clean from trash. I did let the neighbor know that I would make this announcement here, but I will also be taking it to the St. John's Boosters Club, since I think that is probably a more appropriate area for our business group to take some action on. Okay, so moving right along, we are now going to take a moment to do minutes review, and we're going to approve the minutes from last meeting. That was November 4th. Thank you. Thank you. So, if you would, please, in one of your handouts is the meeting minutes. We also do post them in draft form on our website. That is our commitment to you, is that you would be able to have access to our information, what things are discussed, so you can feel more informed coming into the meeting. And I need to also say, as our secretary Colette let me know, you are being recorded. It's for us to ensure that we have really good meeting minutes for you. So, just so you know. Okay, do we have any, well, first I'll go ahead and seek a motion to approve the minutes. Motion approved by Joe Ellings. Seconded by Tom Peter. We now have debate. Is there any debate regarding the meeting minutes from last general meeting? Any items that sort of jump out at you? You think, no, let's correct. You spelled my name wrong. All right. If there's no debate, we'll go ahead and accept. We'll move for a vote to approve the minutes. As a reminder regarding the voting, you must have attended one of the last 2 membership meetings in order to vote. You must have either attended the October meeting or the November meeting in order to vote. So, with that in mind, all of those who are eligible to vote, please may I see a rise of hands who vote to approve the minutes as stated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17, approve as is. Any objections? Any abstentions? 0 and 0. Excellent, thank you. Meeting minutes are approved for November. Great, moving on. I like to have a nice moving show. Yes, I think of this as a show. Here's one other announcement. I'm going to go backwards for a moment. Residential infill project. Our land use chair will have a moment in our meeting, but wanted to make sure that all of you are aware that there are these meetings happening regarding the changes of zoning and the impacts they have in our neighborhood, in our property lines. So please, please, please make sure you attend. If someone could please try that, I would totally appreciate that. Okay, thank you, Donna, I appreciate that. Let's see if we can have the front desk sort of help us out with our lights. All right, census, is Brett Dusing here? Brett, come on up. Brett is here to talk about the 2020 census. I won't steal his thunder, but I will give it a nice endorsement. Did it this past year. It's a great gig, easy money.
Wow, that's great. I'll be very brief because I know you have a lot of issues to get through. But the 2020 census is coming. We have to hire a lot of census takers, the people that go to the addresses and ask you to fill in your form. We need about 250 employees just in this zip code. So, and unemployment is low right now, so they elevated the rate. The higher rate is $18 to $20 if you're a supervisor. So that's pretty good chicken scratch. It's a good part-time side job because you choose your own hours. And so what I'm going through St. John's doing is talking to groups and seeing where people could really use this extra money for the next 6 months. So I'm going to make it easy instead of like a long discussion. I have a clip where if you know any groups that the census could just come by and talk to that might be interested in these jobs. So we've gone to like the Linton Food Bank, we've gone to Senior Bingo, we just sort of crash the party and ask people if they want a job. So if you're involved with any groups, or if you have somebody that I can talk to, that would be a good idea. And then I also have a clipboard. If you are interested in a census job, you can put your name on here, and the office will get back to you if you have any questions. But it's really easy. You just apply online, and it's a very quick process. You don't need a resume and that sort of thing to get hired. Cool. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brett. Thank you very much. It is a cool job, I must say. I did work it for 2 months in the summertime. People thought they were like, "Wow, you're gonna go knock on people's doors?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually." And it was so much fun. I like talking to people. I like talking, so it kind of works. But I have to fully endorse it. It was a great experience, great training program, a great opportunity to get some extra scratch, as Brett said. Okay, moving right along. Like I said, I really love to move our agenda along. We're ahead of time, even better. At this time, I'd like to welcome our safety and livability chair, Gloria Luzader. Gloria?
Hi. Tonight I actually have something here. I'm really happy because I have the firemen. These are the guys from Engine 22.
Great crew! Hi! Thank you for coming.
They're going to come up and they're going to give us a little bit of a talk about fire safety or things we should and should not be doing this time of year. Yes? Captain? You're not a yes. Okay, good. You get communicated. This is all important. These are the guys who are right over by the bridge. This is ours.
Right. My name is Captain Eric Peterson. I'm the captain of Fire Station 22 in St. John's. We try to make it as often as we can to these. Sometimes it's a little tough. We get interrupted. I had a few updates first. I know there's with the SALT committee over the years, one of the most recent issues has been the speed bumps on St. Louis and Fessenden. I'm sure you guys all noticed that they were there and then they disappeared for a while. That was the fire bureau's doing. PBOT, their design for the speed bumps didn't fit our apparatus. And the number of speed bumps, and that is the primary fire route for us, and it probably cut 1.5 to 2 minutes off our response to anything north of Fessenden. So they ripped them out. The new ones are going back in, and you notice the cutouts are wider. Those fit any fire engine or fire truck in the city of Portland, so they're approved for the entire city. It's not the first time this has had the same issue in southwest Portland. There's a couple streets down there that had the wrong bumps installed. And if anybody north of Fessenden, your fire response time has just jumped up 2 minutes. And it is tough because it is obvious that those bumps aren't going to slow the traffic down as much. They're easier to get through, but that's just part of the trade-off that we have. The traffic calming is a citywide priority, and there is a trade-off between emergency response and the traffic calming. One of the other issues that I know you guys are concerned about is the residential infill, and we really appreciate the community involvement because it does affect the neighborhood. I will tell you that a lot of the apartment infill, the buildings are safe. They're built incredibly safe. They don't represent an increase in our responses for fires or emergency medical problems. Most of them are market rent apartments, so we don't see an increase in calls. The biggest impact to us is the parking. The streets around here are getting tighter and tighter and tighter with all the cars trying to fit in, and that does limit our response times. Getting that 65-foot fire truck down some of these streets gets tougher and tougher every year. One thing I did want to pitch, many of you I know are longtime residents and have probably heard of Shirley Ann. If you haven't, do some research. It's a community-funded nonprofit that's been going since 1954 that specifically buys equipment and training for Fire Station 22 to impact better response to St. John's and Linton. So it's still going. We're partnering with the St. John's History Museum. There's going to be a Shirley Ann exhibit in our foyer. Part of it's up right now, but we're working on making it bigger. So if you're walking by the station, take a peek in. That front door is open, tends to be open during business hours. And if it's not, you can kind of look through the glass and see the exhibit, and there's more to come. And Gloria did ask me to talk about some safety tips. I think now as we're getting into winter, really is the heating season. The two things we look for the most now are the heating equipment. Space heaters are probably the most important. Most of the space heaters made today and in the last 20 years are perfectly safe until the laundry falls on them. So feel free to use them. Check the cords, but please make sure what's around them and don't let stuff fall on top of them. This time of year also is Christmas lights. If you have Christmas lights that are 3 or 4 generations old, they've been passed down the family, which is pretty common, you might want to think about replacing them. The LED lights they run cool. You're not going to have a heat issue. The older bulbs get as hot as 1,200 degrees. So that's probably our biggest things for this time of the year. Feel free to stop by the station anytime, and we appreciate your support keeping the neighborhood safe.
Thank you very much, Anthem 22. We really always do appreciate having a visit from you and giving us an update. Yes. I do pride myself on being able to keep us going and on time, because I know how valuable your time is, and I appreciate you being able to give it up once a month for us here for an hour and a half. So, as we are on time, I'd like to move us forward with the Frog Fairy presentation. Yay! I'd like to introduce to you Susan. I just know you as Susan. I didn't know if we needed to be formal, but Susan is going to take us on a journey through what could be a wonderful new transportation experience for us here up on the north end. Oh, I'm so excited. Here you go. Right.
Hey, thank you very much for having me here tonight. I really appreciate it. I have to admit, I always feel a little bit like a pretender in front of groups because honestly, this could be any one of you up here. I mean, how many of you have thought, why don't we use the river to navigate around the region? Has anyone not thought about it? Well, honestly, I was just curious, and a little bit about my background. I got my start with the State Economic Development Department 32 years ago. You can do the math, I'm 54. I've been in this business for 32 years. But I got my start back then, and one of the things I'm kind of known for is I was the co-founder of Cycle Oregon. And Cycle Oregon is our statewide bike ride. And back then, cycling wasn't cool in Oregon. It wasn't really known about. We didn't have the infrastructure around cyclists and cycling in general. And so when you think back of the early days of Cycle Oregon, there weren't really wide shoulders on our roadways, and really the debris was swept off onto the shoulders rather than all the way off. And so there was a lot of work with Oregon State Police. They were right there from the early days, and working with ODOT and a number of the different municipalities through the years that created Cycle Oregon. And then, kind of fast forward, I spent 10 years as a director with the Port of Portland, so Portland International Airport, and the Maritime franchise as well, and one of the largest owners of industrial land in the Ford County area. And then up until a year ago, I spent nearly 5 years with Erickson, which is a global helicopter company known on the aerial firefighting side as a global giant. So I have a big place in my heart for firefighters. So thank you for your leadership and all you do for our communities and keeping us safe and protected. And I've been a student pilot on the fixed wing side. And so I'm a slow learner. I haven't soloed yet, but I've been flying for about the past 12 years, and I just have a real passion for flying. And so I've been taking off out of Little Aurora Airport and flying up to Puget Sound area, the San Juans, up to Vancouver, Canada. And every time I did that, I would fly up and over this empty Willamette River and the by and large empty Columbia River. And I knew more than your average bear about river transit, having been with the port and the steamship lines and who was calling on our community. And 3 years ago, I chaired my college reunion up at the University of Puget Sound, go Loggers. My vice chair lived on Bainbridge, and he said, "Hey, Suze, can we go ahead and schedule our meetings around the ferry service? Because I'll take the ferry into Tacoma for the meetings." And I said, "Sure." So this just was rattling around in my brain, and one day I landed back at Aurora, and I picked up the phone and I called Mary Shaver. Shaver Tugboat Marine is probably a top 3 maritime company in the Portland area, and Mary and I had served on a charity board years ago. And I said, "Mary, you're the smartest maritime person I know. Why don't we have some sort of river-based service here as part of our navigation and transit plan?" And she said, "Dad and I totally agree this can be done. We tried it 18 years ago. We really couldn't get the electeds behind it. But 2 things. One, I want you to go sit down and talk with Captain Ann McIntyre. Captain McIntyre is the president of the Columbia and Willamette Pilots Association. And I sat down with her and I said, I've got this aviation background. I don't have a maritime background, but I think we could do this. She said, we're behind you. We think this river is very underutilized. If anyone gives you any heartache over not having a maritime background, you tell them I'm on your team and I got your back. No one has questioned my credentials since then. And that was actually 3 years ago when I started this. And I was curious, just like one of you. And then the second thing she pointed out to me is go check out a 2006 research study that was conducted by PBOT, Portland Bureau of Transportation, and Metro, that's called the 2006 Willamette River Passenger Ferry Study. And it is one of the first links on the Frog Prairie website if you want to check it out. There's a bunch of research and resources on there. And so I read through it and said, okay, I read this, and for the findings, we easily meet all the requirements. A lot has changed in nearly 14 years since that study was done. So some of the findings were you need to have enough growth, population growth, where you've got that much more traffic, leading to that much more congestion, to that much more travel times. So back in 2006, you could get from Vancouver to Portland in 15 to 20 minutes. Remember, for those of us that used to live or have lived here a long time, I've lived here my entire life, it used to be you could get anywhere in 15 minutes. Now that average commute during the commuter times is an hour and 20 minutes. So can we compete with that? Fortunately, we can. And then it was, gosh, we really need to be mindful of the low wake requirement here on the Willamette River. Is that possible? There's been a huge greening in the passenger ferry space, really led out of Europe, particularly out of Norway and Denmark. a lot of reference materials on our website and our social media sites about some of the innovative work that's going on there, as well as really reducing carbon emissions vastly. And I've got a chart I'm going to show you here in just a minute. There needs to be a lot more infrastructure developed. Yeah, that's still the case. However, we have far more docks and infrastructure than we did 14 years ago. And then lastly, you need to have a really great group of stakeholders, public-private stakeholders behind this. For 3 years, I waited for someone to tell me this can't be done. For 3 years, I waited for the hard stop. For 3 years, I waited for a detractor to say we shouldn't do this. Guess what? We're actually growing supporters every single day. People seem to think this is a good idea. And granted, people want to know how much it's going to cost, both to go ahead and put this infrastructure together, as well as for the ongoing operational costs. I want to know that too. I'm a fiscal conservative. We know that we really need to be able to compete with other public transit means. But when I was told it couldn't be done, and we came out and said, here's the vessel, it can't be done, without us having to impede traffic and open bridges. And two, they said it's going to cost too much. I said, how much is it? You think it's going to cost too much? What is that? What does that look like when we're spending billions of dollars right here in our own Tri-County area for transit? Crickets. None of the public transit folks could tell us how much it was going to cost. So really, I am so like one of you, and all I'm saying is let's operate with facts and data. Let's not just default to things. So I'm going to take you through this very quickly and provide a lot of information. I talk kind of fast, but I really hope you guys will be thinking of questions. And then James Paulson is one of our board members, and he also chairs our community outreach team. He's going to come and help me tackle some of the questions you might have here. Okay, would you mind? Can you guys see this at all? No. Can we shut off the lights? Because it's fine, you guys have seen me, you don't need to see me anymore. Okay, so the goal is to create a safe, of course, safety is going to be our guiding light, and sustainable in all ways that we define the word, river-friendly, public passenger ferry service. This is not a private service. This is for a public service. That's always been the vision. Every so often there will be little news stories that pop up. This is a private service for a bunch of wealthy people, for other wealthy passengers. You know what? I'm not a wealthy woman, and I'm paying for a daughter going through college, and every nickel I have, I've earned, and I've largely been underwriting this and kind of scraping by. This is not a group of wealthy people. I would love to find them and have them come join this effort, but that's not what this has been about. This is about public transit. It's also something that when we said, we proved this can be done and here's the vessel, we took it back out to all the public transit agencies about 1.5 years ago and said, here you go, here are the resources. And they said, nope, we don't want to do it. We know how to do roads and rails. We'll get behind you and your group and we'll support you. That's the only reason I'm here today. It's the reason I left my full-time job 1 year ago to pursue this full-time, because candidly, we're smarter than this. Portland is the last major river city in the nation to have some sort of water-based transit. It's considered a best practice, considered to have a really high return on the investment, and it's the reason we were founded here, is because of this natural asset that we simply don't use. And we want to help alleviate traffic congestion. This is not going to solve it for everybody. This service will be part of the puzzle for addressing congestion. There you go. But anyway, we're looking at this being an additional mode of transit for the region. Our objectives are to create a new transit mode. Again, most public, what do I want to say? Most communities our size around the nation have on average 18 different transit operators. We have 1 in TriMet. You go down to San Francisco, there are 27 transit operators down there, public and private. Here we have just 1. So we have, and TriMet can do a really nice job, and they know what they know, but they have no interest in getting into the ferry space. So when you have all of your transit agencies and planners saying, yeah, we kind of agree this is a good idea, but we don't have the expertise, our board is rejecting the fact that we're simply not going to do it because we don't have the expertise. There's plenty of expertise out there in the world. We want to build our emergency response capacity. This is the section when we talk about from an emergency response aspect and Cascadia Rising. I've actually interfaced with a number of the state emergency response planners. I did it from the helicopter side of the business with Erickson. And I'm really concerned about some of the plans we have or we don't have in place in the event of a catastrophic earthquake event. This is an opportunity to build a micro-industry and to really create this industry, what we like to think of as the right way, with a really good conscience, with a really good outreach across our community. Portland, even though it was founded at the confluence of two rivers, we have a pretty meager maritime industry here. Unlike Seattle, you think about going up to Seattle, you walk along the waterfront, you see the seafood restaurants, you see the containers, the steamship lines, you see the cranes. It's a very active seaport. Here, our Terminal 6 is hidden back behind. You guys are pretty familiar here with T4 here on the auto side of the business, but by and large, Portland has not really been a maritime community, and so we've been lacking that culture. Just like 32 years ago, we were lacking the cycling culture that we've now built statewide. Reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. It's something that even though we like to pride ourselves in having clean air and clean water, we actually have a real issue here with air quality. And so we've got an excellent opportunity here to remove quite a few cars, up to when we start this service at about 6,000 to 7,000 a day. That will make a pretty remarkable difference for air quality. Minimizing cost, delivering high ROI, I mentioned. 30% fare box recovery. Here's my question for you. When you go out and buy a TriMet ticket for $2.50, on average, what's the true cost of that ride per passenger? $8. About 50 cents. On average, about $20. So your subsidy is averaging at about 94% for max. For the Portland streetcar, you're paying $1 for that ride. That actual cost is at $11. So it's an 89% subsidy. So
TriMet says that 16% of their budget comes from fare box, so let's just be straight.
yeah,
16%.
how what percent?
16.
1/6. Okay. Well, let's follow up on that because from the budget numbers we have, and we do need to differentiate between for light rail and for buses as well. But the fact of the matter is, there's a huge subsidy here. Let's say it is 84%. I just want to make us all aware there are huge subsidies going into public transit. Public transit is very expensive, and we need to just acknowledge that and I think be aware of that as taxpayers. So you have both your federal subsidies as well as those here locally for it. So it's very, very expensive. So 30% fare box, that is the gold standard for ferries nationally. For Boston, they're operating at 55%, so they're collecting over half from their ticket prices. For Kitsap County out of Seattle, they're at 45%. They could be more efficient and collect more. They've chosen not to in order to make sure they're not pricing themselves out of the market. 3-year timetable, I'll take you through that in just a minute. And then our friend Frog, the little logo, it's hard to see there, that is based on the Chinookan mythology about the story of Frog. And Frog was known to have his friends Raven and Coyote, and Frog would take the local people down to the riverbank and collect nettles to create nets. And he is accredited with teaching the local people how to fish. And so the artwork of Frog was created by Tony Johnson and Adam McIsaac. Tony Johnson's the chair of the Chinookan tribe, And I had the benefit of working with him on an installation out at the Port of Portland building at Portland International Airport. And he gave me a lithograph of frog as a thank you. So really weaving in our native past and our heritage is a big part of the ethos behind Frog Ferry. Next slide. We get it. It's a really bold, it's a big project. It's daunting. We are very aware of that each and every day. And this has certainly been a labor of love for our board members and myself. It's 70 hours a week, and I'm happy if someone wants to come up and ask me how much I've been paid in the past year, I'm happy to share that. It's really, really hard. We do believe it's the right thing to do. We believe it's the right thing for our community. Our target audiences, the first one are really commuters, and that's really what we see as our bread and butter for regular income. So that would be in the morning and late afternoon and evening for moving people back and forth from, and I'm going to take you through the routes in just a minute. Locals crisscrossing the river throughout the course of the day, as well as on weekends, and we see there are opportunities for interpretive rides as well, and talking about our history in the region, taking school groups out of kids. One of our board members has dubbed it tadpole tours, and we just have a different vantage point of the community from the water. The visitor market, traditionally for ferry services across the nation, there's an uptick of about 30 to 50% during the peak season due to the visitor market. And then again, emergency response. Next slide. Looking post 9/11 back in New York, we have a link to all of the maritime response, both public and private vessels that came and helped with that evacuation out of New York City. This is an approximation of the vessel, and it's not necessarily exactly the vessel we'd be going with, but when we looked at the mission and the confines of the Willamette and the Columbia waters, this vessel is currently serving on the Potomac. It's a double-hulled catamaran. The classification is 149 passengers, so there are 99 within on the main deck. And then in the summer months, there is additional space up above for 50. So that's out in the open. So basically rails and seats flip up during the summer when you've got increased demand. This one is operating on full diesel. Our engineering team, we have, in addition to the board, we have 8 all-volunteer teams. And the engineering team, we have that's led by an Intel engineer. We've got Daimler and PGE on it. They've all agreed that a hybrid propulsion system is the best way for us to go. So we're looking to run electrified mid-city, and then further out running off of renewable biodiesel rather than a full diesel product. Looking from Vancouver to Portland, I mentioned during commuter times that hour and 20 minutes commute against the current. So that would be Vancouver into Portland, would be 38 minutes at 24 knots. The return time would be about half an hour. So you come on board, you've got a seat, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got a good cup of coffee in the morning, or a microbrew at night, going back. And really, it's about what's the highest use of your time, okay? Rather than, I don't know when I'm going to arrive, and that on-time reliability when you're driving your own car, let alone the wear and tear of that, and you know you're going to get there likely on time. Reliability last year for King County out of Seattle was 99% on time. The year before that was 98% on-time reliability. Across the board, from every transit system I can find across the nation, the number one determinant of whether or not a public transit service is successful is on-time reliability. People want to know when they're going to get to their intended destination. The average fare, that's the longer fare, that would be Vancouver to Portland. Right now, based on cost per operational hour that we have in, we're saying it's probably going to be about $5.50. I would envision crisscrossing the river. If you're on Salmon Street and crossing over to like an Omni, that's probably going to be $1.50 or $2. We really want to have it be integrated into the hop card as well, so it's really one-stop shopping. And I did hand out some maps that give you a better sense of where those stops are. I know it's super hard to see on this, but we've got 9 different proposed stops. I seriously doubt we're going to start with all 9. We've got a demand model that's being run right now to get a sense of truly what is the demand for each one of these stops now, as well as projecting out to 2027. 2027, it just happens to be the date when Metro runs their modeling off of. So Vancouver, because really this was founded off of helping with the I-5 traffic and that backup, but Vancouver could end up being a 2.0 version for us to expand to, we'll see. Port of Vancouver is our big sponsor over there, would be at their Terminal 1. So as you're driving north over the I-5 bridge, the parcel of land that's open immediately adjacent on the west of the I-5 bridge, that's Terminal 1, there's currently a dock out there. Then the next stop coming down would be right here at Cathedral Park. You've got a beautiful dock there and access point. We don't know if the dock as it is would handle the ferries. We don't know it for any of the docks. So in Q1 of 2020, we will be conducting an operational feasibility study. So all of the docks and access, that's a big part of the study that we'll be conducting. I'll go into that a little bit more in just a minute here. Swan Island, we've had on here, Swan Island Daimler put in a request for a permit for dock. It was denied. I've been told because of the Superfund site. Could they get a portable dock in there? We don't know. Daimler's one of our big supporters, and of course they've got some key employers there. Vigor's been a great supporter of ours as well. We would have to issue an RFP. We can't just do a direct sole source to have Vigor build the boats. But they are one of 7 different boat builders up and down the West Coast who have provided design, engineering, and a proposal for us. Then to the Oregon Convention Center, they've got a great dock there already. Salmon Street Springs, that's really the interface with the downtown core there. That's currently where the Portland Spirit calls, and Dan Yates, the owner-operator there, has been a terrific supporter of ours. Then going down to OMSI, and we're part of the master plan for OMSI that Gertie Eland's working on. Then OHSU and Seidel, their property there, they've both been supporters of ours. They've both written checks for us there. Right now, just OHSU alone has 1,250 employees a day commuting over the I-5 bridge. So it just gives you a sense of the scale. Each day, Monday through Friday, 135,000 vehicles cross the I-5 bridge. Of those 135,000, 35,000 are commuting into Portland's downtown core. So that's really our target audience right now. And then we go down to Lake Oswego. Lake Oswego has a beautiful dock down there. The city's behind us there. And then all the way down to Oregon City. Oregon City probably would be the 2.0 version. They've got that river walk that is several years off, but we're going through a huge renaissance in Oregon City. It's going to be really beautiful. Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde have just purchased that Blue Heron Mill, and we're working with them as well. And so I think that would be further down the road that we'd really love to be able to provide transit from there. Go ahead, I'll try to wrap this up. This is just talking a little bit about the green propulsion sources, and some groups like to know more about this than others, but I had the engineering team put this together. I just wanted to provide you with a sense of the deliberation and diligence behind this. We've had folks come to us saying, why aren't you doing hydrogen fuel cell, for instance? And it's just looking at weight and space. I mean, there's just a lot of different variables behind this. For us, this hybrid diesel-electric is really looking like it's going to be the best way for us to go. We do want to have the opportunity to change out that power deck in the future too. So if the technology advances such that we can go fully electric, we'd love to do that. But right now, in the world, we do not believe it is a possibility to go fully electrified. Supporters and stakeholders, and I'm not going to read through all these, but I just want to give you a sense for the 1,500 plus supporters. I think we had hit 700 meetings as of last January, and I kind of stopped keeping track in terms of presentations. I do a presentation like this about once a week, and then I probably average about 4, one-on-one or small group meetings a day. So this has very much been individuals hearing about this. I presented to Amazon staff, I think 2 weeks ago, immediately had 20 employees that emailed me and said, how can I help? And one of them is a web developer helping to build out the back end. So every single day, I hear from complete strangers saying, I believe in this, and I believe in the work you're doing, and I want to help out. And that's how we've gotten to where we are today. Next one, project timeline. So really 2017 and 2018, we have proved the mission and we attracted the expertise on our teams. And really it was saying here's the coalition and here is a lot of the research and data, and the intention again was to turn it over to a transit agency, and that just simply didn't happen. For this year, we've really focused on outlining 4 different feasibility studies. These aren't feasibility studies that we made up. This is from many, many conversations with federal officials as well as our transit officials in particular, saying these are the required feasibility studies that you need to have in order to move forward. So the first one is a best practice case study analysis. It's 6 different kind of similar ferry services, 4 of them domestic, 2 international, that's listed on our website, so you can feel free to go take a look at that and kind of the lessons learned from each one of them. We have 6 ferry experts on the West Coast that are advising us, all pro bono to date. 5 of them out of Seattle and 1 out of San Francisco with the San Francisco ferry system. They're all saying, we love the Portland area, we want to help you be successful, and so they have really advised us and been enormously helpful. Demand modeling we have underway. The demand model that we have here in the region is basically akin to putting light rail or a bus on the riverway. It didn't really work because we don't have passenger ferries here. So we had to scrub a year's worth of effort, kind of retool it, working with Metro, TriMet, and PBOT, and raise more funds to have Metro run it again. And we hired on Echo Northwest to help us with the passenger ferry best practices. So we'll have those numbers early in January. The operational feasibility study and finance plan, that's a big, big plan. And that price tag is about $250,000. We're getting it for less than half price, simply because we've already done so much of the work that we're able to use on that. To date, I can also mention to you that we're pretty conservative. We believe we've delivered about $1.5 million to $2 million in value. Had a public transit agency done it, not with facts and data, but I can tell you that I've had public agencies say probably we would have put about $20 million on it. To date for us, we billed the city of Portland, there was an appropriation for $30,000. So everything else has been done pro bono, or it's through fundraising that we've done through other means. And then lastly will be the triple bottom line. So looking at the economic, environmental, and the sustainable nature or social aspect of the benefits and any negative aspects behind it. So we'll put together that 2020 plan that creates our business plan, and then collectively we come to go, no-go decision. So for that business plan, we have 3 different phases. Right now we're in this planning phase on water reconnaissance. Then phase 2 is really what are the capital infrastructure costs behind it, how much the vessel is going to cost, what are the docks going to cost, what is the ticketing process going to cost, the certification, regulatory environment, all that. And then the third one is operating costs and how are we going to pay for the ongoing operations. So we have no interest in starting up a service that's not going to be viable and sustainable and really benefit all of us for a long time. So we're going to be very prudent, very fiscally conservative on it. And then we do believe we could start service as early as spring of 2023, which is considered very, very fast in the transit world. And then lastly, these are the different teams that we have. The names on here just give you an indication of some of the people behind it. There are far more than that that serve on it. So in case you can't read it, it says Maritime Operations, Strategy and Public Affairs, Engineering, the Public Transit Agency Liaisons, Financial, that's financial, it's also fundraising, Service Providers, Community Affairs, which James chairs, And then marketing communications that we have 2 board members serving on. The next slide. So that's really it for Frog Ferry. I would love to try to address any questions you might have. I'm going to ask James to come up here and join me as well. He's heard me do this little dog and pony so many times. But really, I think it's fair to say the reason we're here tonight is this community engagement is everything for us. It's how we've gotten to where we are today, and we're building out a community benefit plan.
Thank you. Let me start by saying I'm sorry I was late. I was stuck in traffic. Yes, you get to see who I am now. Yeah, so one of the things that we're really trying to build out as an integral part of building this system is really getting out in front of the community, because we see that there's a really great opportunity to bring both the community and the businesses that we've talked about all along the river, bringing those people together as we're building this system. Because like we said, we don't want to build a system that isn't sustainable, and also it doesn't help people. Because what we see is the opportunity here is moving people up and down the river. One of the key things, one of the key drivers for me is if you look at Portland, the core of Portland is where there is high density, high wage jobs. The problem with it is it's very expensive right in the core of the city. And so when you start looking at the communities that are outside that area and how can we bring people in and out of the core of the city easily, so we're not doing the hour plus commute, and if it's an hour and a half in your car, just think how long that is on a bus. And so we're trying to say, how can we put these things together and bring these communities together, so then as you look at some of the projects that are going on, whether that's the development of OMSI or what's going on in South Waterfront with OHSU, there's still a lot of growth that's going to take place there. You know, we're talking about trying to get this system up and running by 2023, and some people think, oh, that seems like a long way. It's not. It's not at all. And when you start looking at the development of these areas, those areas are going to take off. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for jobs and for people to use this system to access. You know, I live down there, but I work up here in this area. And using the system, the waterway as a means of movement. And again, like Susan said, this is not the magic wand of transportation in the Portland metro area. This is just another piece that's not being accessed right now. So we're putting together a community benefits plan. It's still under development, and we're building a team that's kind of digging in. And what we want to do is kind of get this framework. And as we get that framework together, we look forward for the opportunity to come back and present it to you guys, so that you guys can say, you got this right, and maybe you need to do some more work over in these other areas. But we really want it to be something that is sustainable and works for the greater community.
But if you want to help us write it now, we'd love that now. Don't just wait for us to come out with an outline. This is the time where we've got community representatives like you coming and meeting with us about once a month.
And that's why, you know, Susan pointed out, doing a lot of these presentations, we look forward to this. I look forward to the opportunity of hearing from the community. So I'm getting
I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much, Bo, for coming out here and for presenting all the hard work that you've been working on over the last year and a half. I personally am very excited about this project. As such, if you are too excited about this project, but don't want to get involved, you can actually email the chair directly, info@stjohnspdx.org with any of your ideas or suggestions, and I'd be happy to take those to the committee meetings, as I've been invited to join the committee. Very excited. So thank you very much. So thank you, James and Susan, for your time. Thank you, everyone, of our Positive Prosperity. Hope you're excited. All right.
everybody take a break, breathe in, breathe out, come on, stand up, stretch. I know we have all vegetation, lots of lights, on, off, everyone feeling good?
Just doing a temperature check. Okay, great. Well, the lights back on, because we got stuff to do. All right, so that concludes the first half of our meeting, which I like to call the fun part. Filled of fun, exciting things that we need to be aware of. Now we go into business. Business is our updates on the agenda. Up first, you'll notice we actually have 10 minutes allocated for updates. A lot of these are going to be pretty quick little updates. So first up is Mike Bow with land use. Mike, take it away.
All right, this is going to be pretty quick. The updates that I have for you, the City Council recently heard and approved a draft of the Better Housing by Design guidelines. This is a series of guidelines or changes to the code that related to housing issues all across the city. And the idea was to allow more affordable housing, to reduce some of the restrictions on building that would apply to affordable housing, to reduce building more affordable housing, and to provide bonuses to people earning 80%, less than 80% of the median income in order to purchase that housing or to rent that housing. Some of this is going to be superseded or changed in some way by the residential infill project, and that's actually the bigger project, but hold on. And that's the one that I would encourage you to pay attention to. The city is going to finally approve the Better Housing by Design guidelines on, let's see here, it looks like December 18th. So if you wanted to go to the meeting and get some more information on that, by all means. The bigger project, and the one that I would encourage you to pay more attention to, is the residential infill project. That's what we talked about some last time. I gave out the web address. I can probably dig that up again here at some point before we're done. But there's going to be a city council meeting on the 15th, first city council meeting on the 11th. And that's a briefing on the residential infill project. No public commentary is going to be allowed, but it's going to present all of the information there that you might be interested in terms of what that project entails. And then it's going to be voted on, or at least the first hearing, on the 15th of January, not necessarily a vote at that point, but the first public hearing where the public can give feedback on the residential infill project. So my goal and my plan here is to have a neighborhood land use meeting in the month of January prior to this first city hearing, where we can invite somebody from the city to come down and present the program to you folks and take whatever feedback you have at that time. And then those of you who are interested in following up could go to the city council meeting. Anybody have any questions on those? Donna?
Can I clarify?
Sure, go ahead.
It's important. The residential infill project only relates to single-family neighborhoods throughout the city. Better Housing by Design, on the other hand, does not relate to single-family neighborhoods. It's only about the multifamily zoning areas that are along corridors. Okay, so Better Housing by Design is about changes, the zoning and so forth related to multifamily apartment buildings along corridors. Residential infill project is about what happens, changes in single-family neighborhoods. Two different
All right, so thank you, Donna, and keep an eye out for the January meeting on land use issues. Like I say, I'm hoping to have somebody from the city here to present that.
Thank you, Mike. Next up. Oh, hey, it's me. Just wanted to let you know, Clean Air Portland, you may recall last month, we actually had DEQ come out and do a presentation. Let me just back it up just a few more moments. 2 general sessions ago, one of the neighbors, Charlotte McDonald, brought forward a concern she had regarding Columbia Steel and the output of unclean air due to their hair stacks. As a result, myself and one of the board members partnered up with Charlotte, and we went and had a meeting with the advocacy group Portland Clean Air, who is following the Clean Air Act of Portland. Yes, 2 separate agencies, 2 separate groups, similar name. And we actually wrote a letter to Columbia Steel asking them as a neighborhood to please keep us informed, update, and tell us what are you doing about this air you are polluting our neighborhood with. They did respond back to us, a very nice letter, they're being fully transparent. In the meantime, we had DEQ come out last month and also do a presentation and share with us how they are working with Columbia Steel. They are very pleased with their participation level. Since then, myself and Charlotte did have another meeting with DEQ this past Tuesday, or Wednesday, and again, Columbia Steel, where they are in the process of doing a self-assessment. Once that self-assessment comes back, they will present those results to DEQ. DEQ will then move forward with their defined timeline of putting together models to measure the air quality coming out of the stacks. Probably saying this very simplistically, but it is very scientific. So they are expecting those results to come back from Columbia Steel in January. So wanted to let you know that we are keeping very close on this matter and keeping in contact with both DEQ, the advocacy group, as well as Columbia Steel. More information will follow. We will be posting links from DEQ onto our website that you'll be able to take a look at and see the progress on this specific facility. Next, I'd like to welcome Donna Cohen to give us an update regarding Roosevelt staff. Donna.
Hi. So you've been reading some things about it in the St. John's Review. You will read more in the next review. I have led to the editor an article clarifying some things that have been put in that are erroneous. But let me say that this is such an active situation. So last week, the STEM advocates met with deputy superintendents of PPS, not once, but twice. Okay, we had a bigger meeting and then a smaller meeting and then a third informal meeting myself and one of the advocates had with one of the deputy superintendents. So I was over at PPS headquarters 3 times last week. We're hoping to set up another meeting this week. The issue is not classrooms versus STEM space. Okay, that's a red herring. We do need an additional building for classrooms, which should be put in the next bond. In the meantime, there is a space, if we give up, which it looks like we're going to have to, the space that was allotted, that was supposed to be ours in the new building that's being built, there is a space in the main building that will be given up. It's where the construction is, because they're moving into the new building. Now, if we had that space and one classroom next to it, we'd be okay for the time being. When the new building, the second new building is built, we'd like to have the whole space in the main building. But if we can get the one classroom attached to this, what is now the construction space, we can manage. The problem that we discovered last week, it's not just about space. It's about the fact that the program, and this is really a whole other discussion that we have another time, is that the problem is not attracting girls. So there is an inherent bias in the way they're approaching the program. So the enrollment is not what it should be for STEM, and that's their excuse then. Well, we don't need all that space because our enrollment isn't that big. Well, if they were doing it properly, presenting it properly, and looking to attract girls in the program, it'd be a whole different thing. So anyways, we've written up a document to them explaining how they should be approaching this in order to increase the enrollment and saying that, you know, if you do this, you'll increase the enrollment, it'll justify giving that additional classroom space, the one classroom, onto the construction space, and we'll be okay for the time being. That's where we are. Keep your fingers crossed. We're hoping, to get some movement on this. Supposedly, PPS is going to the board on December 17th to give them a proposal for what's going to happen. We'd like to think that our plan will be part of that. And right now, we're going to see how they respond to what we have sent them. If they don't respond well, if they're still trying to hold things back, then we may ask the community to contact the district and say, do right by us and right by our girls, because right now they're not.
So what would you like for us to do?
Well, I just want you to know right now, just, you know, I just want to inform you, but stay the course, and maybe in another meeting I can explain a little bit more about STEM so you understand where they're sort of heading in the wrong direction for not attracting girls to the program, so.
Thank you very much, Donna. Thank you so much for keeping that going. If you have your phone on and you're not one of our firefighters, please turn it off. Thank you. Okay, up next, I'd like to welcome Babs. Babs would like to give an update regarding Columbia Watershed. That's what I saw last. I told you we had total miscommunication, but here you go. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Can I get a raise of hands for how many of you know where the Columbia Slough is going through our neighborhood? Yay. Okay, that helps a lot. I'm a volunteer for the Columbia Slough Watershed Council, and the council is doing outreach across the area. The Columbia Slough starts in the Fairview area and runs parallel with the Columbia River all the way up to Kelly Point Park. And as a volunteer, I am trying to get the word out to the neighbors along the Columbia Slough to find out how individuals engage with the slough. And so there is a simple survey that I have fewer flyers or cards here than the crowd that is here. But if you could, I can hand out these as much as anybody. I mean, take one if it will help you remember. But you can Google Columbia Slough Watershed Council survey, and one will come up, and there's a 3 to 5 minute survey depending on whether or not you want to write a lot at the end, but just asking whether or not you go to the slough, if you don't, why you don't, and what barriers you experience from using the slough as a place to look for wildlife or recreation. And then on a related matter, this coming Saturday in Chimney Park, the city of Portland is having a celebration from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for a bridge that will go from Chimney Park across Columbia Boulevard to the old landfill, which is now called St. John's Prairie. They have remediated it with by planting, and they'll be putting a path along the edge that's part of the North Portland Greenway. And they'll do tours, and at that time, you'll be able to see where there is a launch from the road that goes into the slough. So if you want to be able to kayak along the slough, that's a great opportunity. So that's this coming Saturday between 11 and 1. And then I'll stick around, and after the meeting, if any of you have questions, I'm happy to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really quick, we're now back on schedule, but almost falling behind. I want to allow John Lee, our vice chair, to give you an update regarding Cleanup 2020. What?
Yeah, it's not too early to start planning for it. We had a meeting with St. John's Neighborhood Association Cleanup, or Neighborhood Services, on the last Thursday. Anyway, the upshot of it was that the city is cutting back on the money, so there's going to be a fund of about $2,400 to be shared with all of the neighborhood associations. They are cutting back on the amount of money and the drop boxes. I have to have the application in by February 1st, which I will have. We were planning on April 18th for the day for the cleanup. This will be most likely over by the St. John's Community Church where it was last year. Sunday. Or Saturday. I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you, I'm not positive.
When we solidify it, we will definitely.
Yeah, this is still a tentative date.
Yeah, it's a tentative date, but we will definitely make sure that we solidify it and get it out.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. The Portland boxes this year, and probably a max of $400 for our neighborhood association, and probably only 2 drop boxes. We'll have to provide any others out of our own funds. This all depends on the number of neighborhood cleanups scheduled, and we'll receive final determination in the first week of February what assets the city will provide for us. And that's all we really have at this point.
Thank you for that update. We will also, like I said, we get more information, we'll put it out on our website, and more to follow. Last on updates before we move to bylaws. I know a lot of people are excited about that. I know I am. I just want to let you know, we did a survey and asked residents that we had through Constant Contact, is this mail service that we use, very technical, to capture your email address and communicate information out to you when we are having meetings and what's on the agenda. We sent out a survey through Facebook as well, and the majority came back saying they like the day and the location of where the meeting is. So we will continue to have our general meeting on the second Monday of every month. And at this point, we are still here at Community Center. The reason why we did ask was because we are facing a financial quandary in terms of location of space costs. So for now, we will still remain here. However, it's really critical that we start to do fundraising, because we need to be able to keep staying here and also putting on more other events. With that being said, I'm going to lead that into bylaws. Mike Val will take us through our bylaws.
All right, so let's just take a moment here and get our technology situation set up. Do we have the proposed amendments on the laptop here?
I believe we do. Just a moment.
So what I'd like to do is maybe move the laptop that way, or no, kind of spread right there. Yeah, how big is that? Not, okay. Okay, then let's just take this back as far. Okay. No, that's considered, the power outlet's back on the wall. Yeah, I think so. And then, could somebody ask them to kill the lights again? Yeah, I can do that when Marissa's moving, and I'm pointing the wrong direction. Okay, so, all right. Can everybody hear me okay?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
No, somebody said no. Okay.
Turn it off. Okay, go ahead and do your deal. I have to get a couple things.
Okay, after we were elected, we reviewed the existing bylaws, which were last revised a couple of years ago, and the idea was to see whether or not there were any sections that needed to be changed because the language there was unworkable or didn't make any sense or was hard to understand, and then also to address any roadblocks to possibly qualifying for federal nonprofit tax status in order to make it easier for us to raise money and make those contributions be tax deductible. So those are the two different things that we looked at. In my work, I do a lot of drafting and revising bylaws for nonprofit corporations. So I volunteered to take the first shot at this. What I'd like to do tonight is walk you through the proposed amendments that we've come up with, explain why each amendment is being proposed, and then take any feedback from folks as to other amendments that they would like to see. We have to do this in a couple of different steps. So the first step was to actually draft this up. We did that. Then we took North Portland Neighborhood Services, which is the city group that oversees all the neighborhood associations in North Portland. in order to make sure that it was appropriate or that it was in conformity with all of their guidelines and standards. We got the sign off from North Portland Neighborhood Services. Next step is to present the bylaws, the proposed bylaws, to the neighborhood association. And my suggestion here is that if somebody has a proposed amendment, that after we go through the amendments that the board is proposing, anybody from the audience can propose an amendment. And they do that in the form of a motion. So you raise your hand, I'll recognize you, you can say, I move that we amend the bylaws to say, whatever. Your motion gets a second, and we discuss that a little bit, and you can get a majority of those here who are eligible to vote, that vote in favor of it. That will become one of the new proposed amendments, and we'll incorporate that into the draft. When we're done with that process, we'll have a final draft of proposed amendments, and we'll bring that to probably the next neighborhood association meeting. It could be 2 meetings from now, or probably the next one, where the assembly will vote to either adopt or reject the proposed bylaw amendments. In order to adopt those amendments, we need 2/3 of those present and eligible to vote in favor. Anybody have any questions about the process? Okay? All right.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure. The question was, can amendment be proposed if you're not eligible to vote on it? Are you a member of the neighborhood association? Then yes, you do not have to be eligible to vote in order to propose an amendment. You only have to be a member of the neighborhood association by virtue of the criteria that are already outlined in the bylaws. Any other questions about process? Okay. How are we doing? Okay. All right. And I didn't bring nearly enough, but I did bring a few copies of the bylaw amendments. I've got one version, which is the existing bylaws with all the amendments shown kind of in line here so you can see them. I'll leave these here. And another version that has just the sections that are to be amended. All right, now, can we get the other one actually with the sort of the full set of bylaws? Okay. I know. So the other, so the other side with the full set of bylaws with the amendments in it. Do you have that? Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay.
Can't show you the secret sauce.
Okay, here, how about this?
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't want to see your email password. I mean, we do.
No.
Okay.
Hey, it's all good. I have to,
Hold on. Let's see here. I'll tell you. Probably whichever one you last email me from. I'll tell you. Okay, Marissa, it would be the info at St. John's PDX. Yep. And there's 2 attachments, and one that says revised bylaws. Almost there.
Okay, there you go.
Okay? Okay.
Still can't read it.
All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Yeah, okay. People in the back get the paper. Okay, here, this side, and this side, you guys want to pass this around? Oh yeah, there you go. One more time. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Okay, great. So, I've shown the pages in a couple of ways here. New language is going to be bold and underlined. Language you're getting rid of is going to have a strike through, okay? So, let's go back now, please. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go, perfect. Okay. Okay.
It's all good.
Right, we're adding two new sections here to Article 1, the purpose section. One of them just relates to the corporate form, and this is just, in a way, a reminder to the board of directors, whether it's our board or some future board, that the neighborhood association shall at all times be registered with the state of Oregon as a nonprofit corporation. Now, anybody who's not a lawyer know why you want to do that? Mainly for legal liability. So if somebody decided to sue the neighborhood association for some reason, if somebody broke their ankle on the way out of the building tonight and thought the neighborhood association doesn't defend it, it can provide some protection. It also allows the neighborhood association to do things like buy insurance or take various other things that you need to be incorporated in order to do. Now, traditionally, the neighborhood association has been incorporated. At times, that status has lapsed. Kind of a reminder that we're going to keep doing that. And also, it authorizes the board to seek taxes and status under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. So that's the section of code where if you qualify, you can receive donations and you can have those donations be tax deductible. Okay? Anybody have any questions on this section? Yes. James.
Currently, the neighborhood association already has liability insurance provided to it through the North Portland Neighborhood Services. So why would you want to take on the expense of getting it independently from them?
No reason right now to do that, but in theory, if the neighborhood association wanted to hold an event, for example, that wasn't going to be covered under the North Portland Neighborhood Services insurance, because of some particular sort of liability, we might want to do that. But there's nothing pressing at the moment that would require us to get separate insurance.
But just to be clear, it covers events currently.
The current
NPS's insurance does cover events for the neighborhood association.
The current events are good, yes.
With limits.
Can I speak to that? So I was at the last board meeting and they had said that if they were going to initiate lawsuits against any of the organizations that were helping homeless people, they wouldn't be covered by their current board insurance as it stands in those lawsuits. And then they said that perhaps they were going to use a different organization to enact those lawsuits so they wouldn't have to be publicly accountable for them. Healthy Communities. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and actually need to call that out of order because that's not accurate. But thank you for your comment.
Okay, are there any other questions on this section? All the way back.
Actually, at the beginning of Article 1 where it says purpose, almost all bylaws I've seen for nonprofits will indicate what the mission is and the purpose, and I'm not seeing anything in these bylaws that responds, so you've only handed out the things that you're making changes on.
So on this side of the room, so I said I had two different versions I printed up. This side of the room, I believe, got just the change provisions. Like this side of the room got the full set with the changes incorporated.
I think you should have a conversation when everybody has full information because it's a little uneven to...
Well, we have it posted up here up on the board, and we've also had the bylaws revisions posted on our website for almost a month for everyone to take a look at prior to coming to the meeting. Thank you, though, for your comment.
Any other questions on this section? Yeah.
Yeah, in regards to the gentleman's question, in regards to the liability insurance, 501c3 is going to allow us as an association to accept the donations whether it's cash or whether it's in kind. So if somebody wanted to donate a box of copy paper and a printer, we could accept it, and that person could receive a donation receipt that would become tax deductible for them. At the moment, we are not tax exempt under the law of IRS.
I have been a past board chair, and North Portland Neighborhood Services, North Portland Community Works offers that to all the neighborhoods in this coalition. So
The good news is you can.
That is correct, and we do have that availability through North Portland Works. Again, we're clarifying here because we want to be able to do it for ourselves versus going through a secondary partner.
I move that you strike this section.
Gentlemen all the way to the back.
Second.
Hey,
We are not taking any out of order turns.
we're gonna go through all of the proposed amendments, and then if somebody has a motion, you can go ahead and make it. Gentlemen all the way to the back. Sir?
My quick question was, what is the process for future boards that people are going to have to take to, as outlined in these bylaws, to register with the state? Like, what workload is that creating for this board and future boards?
Pretty minimal. So once you're already registered, and we are, you have to file an annual report where you have to provide various information on your corporate directors and officers. You have to have a mailing address and a registered agent. And so in terms of keeping that up, it's one form that you fill out on an annual basis. If the registration is lapsed, there's a little bit more work involved in order to bring it back up to where it needs to be, but not a lot of it, basically. Okay.
And what's the fee for that? It's like $50?
No, it's up to like 75, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Just to clarify on the previous question, are the letters that you sent out to all of the homeless organizations, ready to sue them?
We're talking about the bylaws.
No, we're talking about the 501c3. How does that interact with the 501c3?
It doesn't. All right, next section, section 4. All right, this section is in order to, it's intended to address the situation with the Cathedral Park Neighborhood Association. So the St. John's Neighborhood Association boundaries don't technically include Cathedral Park, but we have a weird historical situation where Cathedral Park neighbors have always been welcome to participate in the St. John's Neighborhood Association. And after we were elected, we spoke with their board, and they expressed some concerns and maybe even a little bit of animosity in terms of how things have gone in years past, where there's been a feeling that the St. John's Neighborhood Association has intruded upon Cathedral Park's turf a little bit, in terms of taking positions on Cathedral Park issues without coordinating with Cathedral Park or consulting Cathedral Park in any way. So this section here, the section 4, is intended to just clarify that while the folks in Cathedral Park are welcome to be members of the St. John's Neighborhood Association, our association isn't taking sort of action in Cathedral Park without consulting with or coordinating with the Cathedral Park Neighborhood Association. Yes.
So does Cathedral Park Neighborhood Association consider them a lot of their jurisdiction and not ours? And so if, say, I live off of President, as I do, I can't bring a concern about the health of the river to this property as a neighborhood because they exist between here and that.
I don't think so, because they might, in terms of these rivers and whatever, association doesn't run the entire lake. There's only a portion of the St. John's Neighborhood Association that does those
And in my history of being involved in the neighborhood association, they use this organization to get the word out. And I would be frustrated if the city was only dealing with Cathedral Park Neighborhood Association about things that happen in Cathedral Park, because that is a park for all of North Portland. So I hope that you do not make any agreements as you're working through these bylaws to be hands-off about something that's happening there. I mean, it's sort of putting it on that neighborhood association to carry the responsibility, and I don't know that they communicate clearly across the neighborhood about what's going on in their
Well,
meetings.
and I think that there's always going to be some gray areas. For example, if there's an issue about the bridge, the bridge technically isn't in St. John's. It's St. John's Bridge, but it's not really in St. John's in terms of where the bridge stops and the roadway starts.
I believe St. John's goes from the railroad cut to Kelly Point Park, including the area that is in the St. John's Neighborhood Association boundaries and Cathedral Park.
So actually, the boundary is, it doesn't, but just as a point of order here, we're at 8:28, so I need to take a motion. I need a motion if we are willing, we want to get through the bylaws tonight, guys. So if we can expend our time here by 20 minutes, I'm asking, so my motion is those in favor of extending the meeting by 20 minutes to get through the bylaws. Do I have a second? Or first, sorry.
Hold on. So technically, the chair can't make a motion. So the first motion I heard was to adjourn. So if...
Didn't say adjourn.
I know you didn't invite that, but that's the motion that was made. And so it was made and seconded, so...
No, I didn't even hear that motion, so...
I did. The rest of us.
We all did.
I heard it.
I call for move to call the question.
I mean, the vote might not go in...
We're
People
not-
might vote to continue, or not adjourn, in which case then somebody could make the motion to extend, but right now, there's a motion and a second.
Okay, let's do this.
Discussion.
No, I
Yep,
move to call the
discussion.
question. Robert's rules of order. I move to call the question.
So, as the chair, I'm making the motion to extend the meeting by 20 minutes. I can't hear. Oh, there's a motion to adjourn. Sorry, we need to discuss. Sorry, my apologies to everybody. It's been seconded, now it's time for debate. Who would like to adjourn?
She can't hear it if you can. You're halfway
Okay, enough. I'm calling the meeting to order. Please, sir, if you cannot keep yourself in proper order, please leave.
I'm sorry, but you are people that are uncomfortable. You can't barely have a conversation.
It's open to debate. Again.
I motion to adjourn.
And your name, sir, for the record?
Benji.
Benji, last name?
B-U-N-G. It's boom if you want to say it.
Okay. It's been seconded.
Alright, so who has the sign-in sheet showing the eligible voters?
What?
The sign-in sheet for the eligible voters, Bernadine, please.
Bring that up.
I believe we have 27 eligible voters.
I think.
Keep it tally. Okay, here's what you can do. I recommend you call off each person and ask them to vote yea or nay. Each eligible voter.
Each eligible voter, here we go, will say, the motion is to adjourn. From the meeting, yes. Okay. Luzader.
And I want to say here that
Nay to adjourn? Thank you. Joe Ellings. Marissa Peter, nay. Karen Berry. Michael Stoltz. Eugene Darko.
Nay.
Sarah Long. Brooke Buddy. Evan Sims. Aaron Sims, my apologies. Rachel Day. Lisa Kearns. Larry Smith. Lisa Tester. Joshua Leslie.
Abstain.
Abstain. Seamus Linsky.
Abstain.
Abstain. Donna Cohen. Not here. Morgan Martin. Emily June.
Youngie, yes.
Young.
Yay to adjourn.
Okay. Craig Easterly. Nay. Judy Smith. Charles Mitchell. Mark Whitman. I'm sorry, no, Mark. So that's yes?
No, that's adjourned.
Okay, yes for adjournment, okay. And Cheryl Lyons. Abstain, okay. Oh, do I have another list? Okay. Bernadine Lee? Nay. John Lee? Nay. Thomas Peter? Julie Ellings? Tabitha Milliken?
Yay, adjourn.
Colette Peck? Anthony Rio? Mike Val? Nellie Mitchell? Nay, okay. And it looks like Becky Freeman?
Nay.
Nay. That's all the voting.
I'm eligible to vote, you didn't call my name, and I signed in as eligible to vote.
And your name?
White, and I vote yes. I think there might be another sheet. There's more stuff, there's three more sheets back there. There's three more sheets back there.
Okay, what's our
I'm
tally?
going to be voting on everything in the future, so I just need to It's not how we approve the minutes.
Those were last month's sheets. These are the 3 sign-in sheets for the last 2 months. So what do we have for yes?
Is there anybody else who didn't get called who believes they're eligible to vote?
Okay, the tally to adjourn is 6 and to not adjourn is 5, 10, 15, 21 people and 3 abstentions. So the motion to adjourn early is falls flat, will not, so now we will move, is not going to occur. Okay, the motion on the table is to extend for 30 minutes. Technically, we can only extend until 9 o'clock, so that I'll amend it to 25 minutes. Seconded by Tom Peter. We open it for debate. Take it to...
I have a question about that. If it takes more than 25 minutes to get through the minutes, the bylaw changes, are we going to have to postpone it to the next meeting anyway?
Will we have to postpone the whole thing? I think we just postpone the portion that we didn't get to.
Well,
correct?
we can't vote until we get through the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
I suppose so, but we're going to change this a bit as we go through here. I'm not going to take any questions on specific sections until we're done getting through all the sections. Okay?
Okay, can we take a vote?
All in favor?
All in favor? Who's the voting contingency? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. To stay, extend, those against, who are eligible to vote, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and abstentions, 6 abstentions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 abstentions. Okay. moving forward.
Okay, so we hit the lights again, please.
Can I get a question clarification?
Not till we get through all these.
No, it's related to getting through these.
Sure.
So you kind of changed the originally set up. So now we're not going to discuss until the end, but we might run out of time. So you might read through and we vote the next meeting that we have to discuss.
We're not voting tonight.
No, I realize that at the next meeting, if you read through them, we can vote, but we may not have a chance to discuss because we'll have to leave the building.
Possible.
4 minutes, we're supposed to have a chance to amend.
Okay, let's see here. We're on Article 3, Section 1, membership. So, this is, I've asked all residents 18 years of age and older. So, reason for that is so you don't bring all your kids and have them vote. I don't necessarily have any reason to think anybody's going to do that. I did see that it's customary in other neighborhood association bylaws in Portland, but that is the proposed change there, along with striking governmental agencies from the list of people or organizations eligible to participate in the neighborhood association. That was actually a suggestion by North Portland Neighborhood Services. They thought that it was unique for St. John's and that nobody else did it that way, and so we're just kind of trying to conform to what the standard was for North Portland Neighborhood Association. I didn't have any other compelling reason to strike that. Then, this next change is just to correct the name of the Cathedral Park Neighborhood Association. And then, this third issue here, all members who have attended one general, special, or board meeting in a calendar year and have provided a contact address shall be regarded as active members for purposes of corporate formation and tax-exempt status. So the reason for that is if you want tax-exempt status, you have to be able to identify your membership, as in how many members do you have. So the only way to do that is to come up with some sort of criteria. So we can't just count everybody in the neighborhood who lives in the neighborhood. We have to have people who are affirmatively taking some act to identify themselves as members of the neighborhood association. Now, just to clarify something, this has nothing to do with voting or eligibility to serve on the board. So if you don't ever provide a contact address, but you sign in at a meeting and you're eligible to be a member of the neighborhood association, then you're a member of the neighborhood association for voting purposes. If you never come to a neighborhood association meeting, but you get elected to the board, whether you provide a contact address or not, you're a member of the board. So it doesn't affect eligibility to vote or eligibility to serve on the board or any committee. Okay? Let's skip down to Article 4, please. All right, so I just changed financial support to finances. Keep going a little bit here. Fiscal year. So this is at the recommendation of our treasurer, who thought that it was odd that if the fiscal year runs on dates that don't track the election of the directors or are really different than the terms of the directors, that when a budget's adopted, the incoming board is stuck with the outgoing board's budget for some portion of the year. Let's keep scrolling. All right, this is a new section. There was a section 2 years dealt with budget issues. This is outlined the process for the creation and the adoption of the budget. So, apparently, the treasurer approves the budget, the board votes to approve the budget, but the members get the opportunity to ratify or reject the budget at a budget meeting. So, once the board decides to proceed, we have a general meeting, it's presented to membership, the membership can vote to reject that budget or vote to ratify that budget. Article 5, please. All right, this is just a clarification on the general meeting agenda. So This is the process for adding an item to the agenda. And if there is a motion to add an item to the agenda, that motion is seconded, and it's approved by those members present and eligible to vote, then the agenda will be amended and the item will be added. Let's see here. Section 4, quorum. I deleted language here related to quorum because it was conflating general meetings with board meetings. So I just left the quorum requirement from the previous bylaws, which is 9 non-board members and 4 members of the board is a quorum for general meeting, and then struck everything related to board meetings, which I'll address in a later section that is just for board meetings. Can we skip down to Article 6, please? There we go. Yep, sorry. Yeah. Voting procedures. So, the bylaws as they're written now don't specify how things are going to be voted on. By written ballot, by show of hands. There's no process for how we vote. So I wanted to add a process for voting. And for all matters at general and special meetings, except for the election of directors, vote will be by show of hands. Voting for the election of directors will be by secret written ballot. However, the membership, by majority vote, at any general meeting, can decide to adopt a different method of vote. If either show of hands or written ballot is not appropriate in the opinion of the membership. Now let's see here, we're down at 6. Okay. That's just another clarification that there are 15 board members with a 7-member executive state. Change the thing to clarify this. Now we're down to Article 6, Section 4, elections. Alright. The bylaws are basically clarified directions for elections. So this section is so it says, elections to the board shall be held each year at the October general meeting. Candidates shall be nominated from the floor. If there are 15 or fewer candidates nominated, all are board members. So it's essentially a vote by acclamation. You have 15 open seats and 15 people willing to serve, they're your new board. If more than 15 candidates are nominated, then election will be a vote by vote of the members present. Each member may vote for up to 15 candidates. The 15 candidates with the highest total shall be elected. In the case of a tie for the last seat, election shall be determined by the drawing of lots. So the only alternative to the drawing of lots would be to revote. So it's either some method of chance to determine that last spot or make everybody revote. And considering how long the election took in October, I thought revoting would be kind of problematic. Now we're down to section 7, use of the board. The only change here is to item 2. And this is an addition that I stole from the bylaws of another North Portland Neighborhood Association, actually might be Southeast. But any board decision may be overridden by a 2/3 majority vote of the members at a regular or general special meeting. So if the board decides to do something, and that's for whatever reason unpopular with membership, the members can override that decision by a 2/3 majority vote. Now we're down to Section 8. All right, I added some new language here for board meetings, for when those board meetings shall be held. So at least once monthly at a regular time and place. Chairperson can also call special meetings with 7 days notice. And the change that I think got the most discussion when this was circulated earlier, board meetings shall be open to the public, and notice of all board meetings shall be posted in the association's website at least 7 days in advance of the meeting, except in case of emergency. Board meetings are intended to be for the deliberation of board business. Non-board members may not speak unless recognized by the chairperson. Except in extraordinary or emergency cases, the board shall set aside a portion of the meeting to hear questions and comments from association members and the general public. So, Added this because the bylaws as they're written now don't really clarify who gets to talk at a board meeting or even who gets to vote at a board meeting. There's been some confusion on that point when people who are not board members attend the board meeting and what their role should be at that meeting. So a board meeting is not meant to be the General Assembly, it's meant the board to do board business. Anybody can come and observe, and the board will set aside a little bit of time for people to give whatever input they have, but they're not going to interrupt the board's discussion or deliberation of board business. All right, now we're down to public meetings. All right, this is a suggestion by our secretary that rather than wait for the draft minutes to be taken and then approved the following meeting before they're posted, at the board's discretion, we can post the draft minutes from any board meeting or general meeting in order to give people in the neighborhood in meetings an idea of what happened without having to wait until after the following meeting where those minutes are approved. They'll be marked draft, of course, and subject to change, but they'll give folks a rough idea of what happened. Right, those are all the changes. What time do we have here? Okay, let's do 5 minutes for questions on specific sections. Please do not make any motions to amend the bylaws until we do our 5 minutes on specific questions. Ma'am?
On section 1.3, is there any way that you guys could just add what IRS, so I've worked in nonprofit my whole career, I talked to several CPA, and no one's familiar with any IRS requirement that that asks for addresses of numbers, so could you guys just reference kind of what you're referring to there?
So, I was going to say, I suppose we could strike contact addresses, but we do have to have some method of identifying them.
Could you just reference the IRS guideline or whatever rule you guys are?
Just reference it in the body of bylaws.
Just so that people can see where that's coming from, because it's kind of just a blanket statement that all 501Cs have to do this, and none of the ones I've ever worked for do that.
Well, or we can even preface it with to the extent required by the Internal Revenue Service, we will keep track of active members in the following way.
But if you could just reference that IRS regulation, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. Sure.
I just want to speak to what you're talking about. From what I'm aware, the IRS doesn't have a department that is required by the state for a membership of corporation. The second thing is I don't have a specific question about these state sections. I would like to ask a particular question.
If it's quick.
Has the board deliberated and voted on bringing these amendments to the membership?
Yes. Okay, James.
On the same question, I just want to clarify. So the language in Article 1, Purpose, Section 4, Corporate Form, it says the SJNA shall at all times be registered with the state of Oregon as a nonprofit. So just to be absolutely clear, if the membership votes to adopt these bylaws, we're also voting for the neighborhood association to become its own independent 501c3. Because the bylaws would require.
No, so not its own independent 501c3, but registered as an Oregon nonprofit corporation. So those are two different things. You don't need to do anything with regard to the federal government. So the IRS, you don't need to file anything with the IRS in order to be an Oregon nonprofit corporation. In order to be a 501c3, you have to register with the IRS and be approved. So two different things. So we would always have the corporate form of an Oregon nonprofit corporation, but not necessarily tax exempt status unless the board decided that that's what they want to do.
Oh, okay, so you would still need, so then I guess I'm confused, because one of the reasons given earlier was so that you would have 501c3 status for donations, but what you just said would suggest that that's not true.
So being an Oregon nonprofit corporation doesn't enable you to receive donations that are tax deductible for the donor. It just means that you are a registered nonprofit corporation that doesn't make a profit. But it doesn't give you the same status as a registered with the IRS.
So then would the plan remain to be fiscally sponsored by NPNS?
Yes.
I guess I'm unclear as to so if this doesn't give you the ability to accept donations, it's not making yourselves your own 501c3, and like you're already getting liability insurance from NPNS, you're getting 501c3 status through NPNS. I don't, why create this language at all?
Like why be a nonprofit corporation?
Yeah.
Okay.
NPCW will not be your fiscal sponsor if you are not an already nonprofit.
If you're not?
Yes.
So
You currently
why-
are, you currently have been.
Already a nonprofit.
Where do you recognize?
What?
Well, she's clear. I'm just talking to him.
Well, she's from NPNS.
She's from
I think
NPNS.
she might have to answer the question.
Yeah, you've been a nonprofit corporation for a while, a number of years. This, as I understand it, says you're going to continue to do that.
But it's new language, so how have we been one in the past?
It's a reminder to continue to do it.
Oh, okay.
Because the registration's lapsed a number of times for extended periods of time. And really, this is just to keep future boards on track and make sure they're keeping the association's corporate status where it needs to be.
Makes way more sense.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions about specific sections? Sir?
I don't know if it's a question, comment. In section 4, the board, City Toronto Neighborhood Association director shall not actively position with regard to matters really restricted. And I recommend changing exclusively affecting Cathedral Park to acts of the Cathedral Park Neighborhood Association rather than, I think make that a
Yeah, let's save that one, okay? Any other questions about specific sections, ma'am?
Yeah, thank you. I am wanting to know what it is between an active member or not. I don't really understand that. So when you refer to people that don't provide addresses will not be considered active members, what would be the difference there?
Only for purposes of reporting to the IRS, not for voting or for eligibility to serve on the board or any committee. So to the extent that the IRS or the state of Oregon wants the neighborhood association to identify as active members and to have names and contract addresses for them, we'll have them. But it doesn't affect anybody's eligibility to vote or serve on the board or committee.
But they don't require
Sir,
contact
back.
address.
Yeah, so two more questions.
They don't require address.
In Article 4, Section 4 with the budget, what is the reason for if the members do not vote to reject the budget for any reason, including the lack of quorum at the meeting, then the budget is deemed ratified,
Yes.
rather than the budget having to be voted to be ratified?
The concern there is that if the board voted to adopt the budget, as recommended by the treasurer, and then you had a couple of general association meetings where you couldn't get quorum, then you couldn't go forward with the budget. The idea is that the budget gets put out to membership in advance of the meeting, and if people really don't like what the board has done, they can show up and vote the budget down. But if nobody really cares enough to show up and vote against it, then it's automatically approved.
So the board will keep meeting.
Yeah. Actually, one more over here. Yeah, go ahead.
If we had a C3 before and we didn't have the requirement to have addresses then, what was the change in the IRS?
We did.
We didn't have a C3 before?
No.
But what
They just said that we did.
No, we were an Oregon nonprofit corporation.
Right.
That's different. Okay. All right. Let's cut off the questions there. We've got a few minutes. Does anybody have a proposed amendment to the bylaws? Sir, you got your hand up. Go.
Under the Cathedral Park, why can't Cathedral Park, people who are also members of Cathedral Park, that live in Cathedral Park, which I think under the bylaws they live there, they are, why can't they just abstain from taking a vote, a vote or any position here?
things do not.
Is their definition?
Well, I know, but that's they.
So how do you
Right,
propose to?
but I think we get to decide what exclusively affects Cathedral Park, and
Sure.
that's why I wrote it that way. So if there was some dispute about whether or not we had any business taking a position about something in the park or on the waterfront, at the end of the day, we could still take a position, but if there's some doubt about whether or not it exclusively affects Cathedral Park, we should probably leave it to them.
There on the rules and voting then, we vote them in pieces, right? So each change is voted individually, or at the next meeting, do we say?
We'll vote at the next meeting and probably vote on them with each amendment being a yea or nay. Unless a couple amendments are related, then they'd have to vote as a package.
I don't feel like we spend much time discussing this one, and it seems like it's kind of like a bone to Cathedral Park, but
It is.
said to avoid dispute, I think it just creates dispute. And in 5 years from now, it could be pretty significant. When you talk about the bridge and the ferry and all these things, that does it affect, only Cathedral Park? I mean, even the camp that they were talking about putting down there is probably the most glaring example. I mean, that's...
I think, I hear what you're saying, sir, and I think one thing we have to be mindful of is that the city has drawn out neighborhood boundary lines that we have to respect regardless. However, when it comes to waterways or bridges, things that definitely are not defined by the boundary lines, that's really kind of what the whole...
Yeah, and we don't have to discuss it more here, but I'm not quite seeing values other than to just throw a bone.
So let's, motions. Does anybody have any motions?
Only motions, because we are going to have to adjourn.
I move that we invited the time and the need for a little bit deeper conversation. I move that we table the discussion until next month's meeting and move to adjourn. Because we have literally 2 minutes to clear these chairs.
Yeah. There's been a second. Who seconded? Can you please just tell me your name for the record? Elaine Simmons. Simmer.
Okay, all in favor?
All in favor? Raise your hand. Who's voting eligible? That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Abstaining? 0. All right, motion passes for adjournment. Thank you. If everyone could please fold up a chair and put it on the rack to help expedite us getting out of here sooner for the general services.